So yeah, that's Terrifier. Review over. No, but seriously, this movie is crazy. A lot of people recommended that I review this movie, so I knew there was something special about it. So I had my wife sit down and I recorded us watching it together. And oh my god, the guy who directed and wrote Terrifier is working on Terrifier 2. I wanted to get this video out before that released, because if the second one is anything like this one, then I know I'm gonna want to watch it. This isn't the first movie featuring Art the Clown, it's just the first movie that I've seen him in. When my wife and I sat down to watch this movie, we were able to watch it for free, but there was one catch. There was commercials. And with a movie like this, it was hilarious. It would completely break the tension.
Hello, ladies. Look at your man.
It brings you out of it.
Sadly, he is.
So the movie starts on a talk show, and this woman is interviewing one of Art the Clown's victims, and her face is all disfigured. The next scene shows the talk show host in her dressing room, and she's a huge like, she's talking a bunch of trash about the woman that she just interviewed, saying stuff like, oh, kill me if I ever look like that.
Babe, do me a favor. If I ever look like that, promise me you'll put me out of my misery.
We live in a society.
And the girl that she was interviewing is like listening in on her. So this woman attacks the talk show host and ends up killing her. In this movie, practically everybody dies. I'm just gonna come right out and say it. So I'm not even gonna bother mentioning any of their names. There's two main pieces of meat that are going to be murdered. A blonde girl and a brunette girl. This takes place on the night of Halloween, by the way. And they're just hanging out by their car, and then they notice this creeper staring at them in the distance. And this is what he looks like. Hey, hey! What the fuck? Why are you not leaving? The blonde girl like yells out to him and starts to flirt with him pretty much.
My friend wants your number.
Fucking kill you.
This guy makes Pennywise the Clown look like Ronald McDonald. The brunette girl kind of has brains in this movie, and she's like, hey, you should probably stop that. Let's go.
Stop, don't come back.
So the two girls go to a pizza shop, and the clown follows them there. He sits directly across from them and just stares at them. But the two girls refuse to leave. Oh my god, even if he wasn't a murderer, I would be out of there. If it wasn't bad enough, he carries around this garbage bag. I would immediately think that there were body parts in there. It turns out that it's filled with like weapons and stuff. I like the clown's little top hat though. It's cute. To add insult to injury, the blonde girl decides to take some selfies with the clown. Granted, it is Halloween, so maybe it's kind of expected that you'd see some people walking around in creepy outfits. But this is a little bit too creepy, and the fact that he's like sitting there staring at them is a huge red flag. Like, come on, this thing, it's huge.
Thanks.
What are these girls doing, dude? Either way, if I were in their position, I'd probably just play along, you know, I would think it was a big joke, but I probably wouldn't stick around as soon as he starts staring at me, you know, because you never know a stranger's intent. The owner of the pizza shop approaches Art, and he's like, hey, do you want anything? If you don't, you should get out of here. So the owner of the pizza shop kicks him out. He's being all goofy, like using hand gestures and making faces. So the girls walk to their car, and they find that their tire has been slashed. So they call their friend, who's a long ways away, and they ask her to pick them up. I'm just gonna call her brunette number 2, because she's brunette number 1's sister. She was about to say no to her sister, because she had some studying to do, I guess. But then her roommate enters the room, and starts like having sex right next to her. Does this really happen in college? If it does, I mean, that's really awful and awkward. We then return to the pizza shop, and one of the guys that works there turns to find that his boss had his head cut off, and it was turned into a jack-o'-lantern. I mean, that must have taken some time, right? So the poor bastard that works there, he's probably getting minimum wage. He runs away, he tries to get his hands on a phone, but then Art just cuts his hand off, and then the clown stabs the shit out of this guy's face, and we get a nice view of it. Great. So the girls are kind of just sitting there stranded, and brunette number 1 has to take a piss. There's this run-down building that they're parked next to, and this man walks out to smoke a cigarette. The blonde girl's like, hey, there's this creepy guy over there. Don't approach him, he's weird.
Guy's even weirder looking than the clown was.
Isn't this the same girl that thought it was completely fine to approach this creepy-ass clown? So the brunette walks up to this guy, and he's like, sure, come on in. It turns out he's a pest exterminator, and he's working really late because he has to get rid of some rats or something. And he's perfectly cordial with her, except the place is really gross. Like, the bathroom that he brings her to is really disgusting. I find it really funny how these girls were like, oh my God, this place is so creepy. I mean, look at the outside of it. It just looks like a regular apartment building. There's nothing creepy about it, but on the inside, yeah, it's pretty fucked up. So after going to the bathroom, the brunette tries to find her way out of the building, but instead she runs into another woman, and she's very strange.
This is my daughter, Emily.
I guess she's a squatter. And then the brunette runs into Art the Clown, and he's very happy to see her. They play cat and mouse for a little bit, so she's like hiding from him, you know? And then out of nowhere, the clown starts like sawing at her heel. It looks so fucking painful, dude. I know my wife didn't like this part. So now she's like hobbling around the building and she finds the janitor, except he has AirPods in. No! Ruins everything. Thanks, Apple. Thanks. They're not actually AirPods. It's just a meme. And she just kind of like screams at him. It's pretty obvious that he has earplugs in. So why doesn't she like take a shoe off and throw it at him? You know, like do anything to get this guy's attention right now. Obviously he can't hear you.
Fuck, duck. I prefer chicken as feathered fuck. Just sits on Twitter with a picture of a duck every minute. Oh, it's the same picture posted.
It's one of those really infuriating scenes, you know? If you're in a panic like this, wouldn't you do anything in your power to get someone's attention? So now he's got the brunette as a hostage. This next part is kind of intense. So he has the brunette tied up to a chair. So he walks over to the other side of the room and he has this big sheet hanging down. And he pulls the sheet, and behind the sheet is the blonde girl. And she's hung upside down, pretty much entirely nude except for her panties. And yeah, she's just hanging there. I don't think I can show most of it, but I can give you a good representation. Imagine my good friend here.
We are aliens.
Is the blonde girl. Yep, just like this. And her boobies are hanging down. So then guess what Art does? He removes her panties, nice guy, it was probably getting kind of warm in there. And then he takes a saw. For this demonstration, I'll be using a weeb tool. And guess what he does next? He just starts cutting. Just starts cutting down. He starts cutting down like this until he's all the way down. Yeah, so you get the gist. I don't want to completely ruin my alien dude here, so let's just say that I turned him into a her. So now the alien that sits back there is now a woman. Jesus Christ, this got me so off guard.
Oh God! This is seriously gonna affect my safety.
I gotta say, props to the people that were in charge of the practical effects because it looks very real. In a fit of rage and panic, the brunette is able to rip off one of the arms of the chair that she's sitting in. And then she's able to unbind herself, and Art is slowly approaching her as she's doing this. I don't know why he's not running. He's like slowly walking over to her. And when he finally gets to her, she just slaps him in the face with the arm of the chair that's, you know, bound to her arm. She walks over, grabs a knife, and stabs Art the Clown. And he screams in pain. So obviously, Art the Clown is done for, right? He's on the ground, very vulnerable, so obviously she should just keep stabbing him, right? Until he's down for good. Like, don't stop. You guessed it, viewer. She stops and runs. She stabs him once and runs away. So now they start playing cat and mouse again. Art the Clown is walking around with a knife looking for the brunette girl, making very strange faces as he does this. Oh, and do you think she kept a weapon on her? Obviously not. That would be way too smart. But she was smart enough to grab a 2x4. I'm not sure if it's actually a 2x4. I don't know wood. And she smacks Art the Clown with the piece of wood, and she keeps smacking him. She definitely knows how to use that wood. She's really good with that wood. That hard, long piece of wood. She's a pro with it, and she's really going to town on him with this wood. And then there's a point where he's like keeling over in pain, and she stops hitting him. She just stands there and stares at him. You saw him just saw your friend in half, right? You should be smacking him until he's like a bloody pile of bones and flesh. And then she finally hits him one last time and sends him flying. This is sounding awfully bad for Art the Clown, right? Obviously, she's gonna get out alive and everything is going to be fine because she's beaten the shit out of him. He's done for. No, she ends up dying. Let me continue. So then Art the Clown pulls out a gun and shoots her. I'm not joking. Why he let himself get beaten so much? Maybe that's his kink. Who knows? So finally, Brunette 2 arrives at the house. She sends a text to her sister, and Art the Clown has her phone. And he sends her a text back, and he's like, hey, come around the back. So she does. So Art the Clown nonchalantly walks over to the brunette girl and shoots her in the face. Yep, so she's dead now. And then he just wastes the rest of his clip on her face. He wants to make sure that she's dead. And the creepy woman from earlier with the baby watches on in horror. Art the Clown looks up and notices her, and he gives her a creepy smile and waves at her. The creepy woman finds the exterminator and tells him about what's going on. And he doesn't believe her, which is very strange. I mean, there were gunshots going off. I know he has his AirPods in, but come on, dude, you can't hear gunshots? Like literally right below you?
That was fucking delicious. Eggs on toast.
So the exterminator calls up his coworker and he's like, hey, I need you to come here and check something out with me. And so Art the Clown approaches him and smashes his face with a hammer.
Oh, fuck. I can't believe you've done this.
Art hears the guy's coworker on the other line, so he smashes the shit out of the guy's phone. The creepy woman ends up finding Art cradling her baby in a hallway. And I guess she really loves this baby. I will even approach a creepy clown that I know just murdered 2 people. And she's like, hey, I see you cradling my baby. Does that mean that you had really poor parents or something? Let me be your mom. Yeah, she like holds him and he sucks on his thumb. It's so weird. I mean, maybe this woman gets a pass because she's already insane. The guy's coworker arrives at the place and he can't find his way in. That is until he remembers that there's a key under the doormat. Oh, silly me. This isn't the place that I work or anything. I don't know how I'd forget that. So brunette number 2 is wandering around this place and she ends up walking down to the cellar until she finds the corpses of the 2 girls and she starts freaking out. She hears the woman down there and she finds her laying face down. Until what the heck? There's another woman across the way. Stay with me. Art the Clown removed the boobs and the scalp from this woman, and then he wore them. So yeah, the woman that the brunette approached was Art the Clown. I guess he was trying to trick her, so he tries to grab her, but he grabs her sweatshirt instead. And then we get a shot of Art the Clown emerging from the cellar. At this point in the movie, he kind of reminds me of Marilyn Manson. I guess Brunette 2 thinks she's in the video game Outlast or something, because she tries to hide in this cabinet or like storage locker thing. I don't know why she didn't just keep running. Art the Clown is walking so slow. I mean, she could have been out of a window and down the street by now. So she's holding the doors closed while he's trying to yank them open. I guess she's just as strong as him or something because he fails to open the doors. That's when Art the Clown hears that the second guy has entered the building. So he's just wandering around and then the clown sneaks up behind him. He likes to be sneaky and he jams a knife directly into his brain. And he's standing there like... He kind of turns into like a bobblehead, and then he starts sawing his head off as if that was necessary. He's pretty fucked right now. You don't have to saw his head off, you know? But yeah, I guess they had to reach like a certain level of gore in this movie. Brunette number 2 ends up leaving the storage locker, and then we get this hilarious scene of Art just riding around on a children's bicycle. Might be one of those like comedy bicycles for clowns that they use in circuses. So she attempts to sneak out of the building, and then all of a sudden he puts plastic on her face and pulls back. Oh my god, she's screwed. Except she's not, because it's saran wrap and it's like the thinnest plastic known to man. But yeah, you can tell that he's not putting any pressure on her face in this scene, and they're like desperately trying to make it so the saran wrap doesn't break. So yeah, she is sitting there struggling like that for a couple seconds until she finally realizes that she has hands that she can use to rip the plastic off of her face. She picks up a nearby spike and jams it straight into Art's foot. So she runs for it, and he gives her the middle finger. I mean, yeah, it's kind of inconvenient, right? Getting stabbed in the foot. So the girl ends up finding her sister in a chair. So while she's just sitting there... like an idiot, Art the Clown sneaks up on her. You know, he loves to sneak, and he has this like flail thing with a bunch of blades on it, and he just hits her over and over and over again. It looks like it hurts pretty bad. That's when the exterminator sneaks up on the clown and hits him.
That was easy.
So this guy picks her up and tries to save her. He calls the police, and the police are like, please stay in the line. And he's like, fuck that, we're going to the hospital. That's a pretty smart idea, right? Finally, a good decision. So they try to leave the building, but of course the door has a lock and chain on it. And this guy doesn't have the key, so he's rummaging around trying to find something to open the door. And then Art comes out of nowhere and smacks him with something. And then he just stomps on his face like it's a pumpkin.
Will it blend? That is the question.
So this girl gets a metal rod and just starts smacking the lock with it. And of course the clown just like strolls his way up to her. No rush, you know, what's the rush? And finally the lock opens, so she's able to escape. But no, she doesn't escape. She doesn't try and run away. Instead, she ends up going into this room that says keep out on the front. And so the clown finds her in there and he starts honking a horn at her. Honestly, it was so funny. And then he leaves and she's like, where'd he go? What's he doing? And it turns out he was just getting into his truck. And he drives straight through the doors, hitting her with his truck. It's so funny, he's like listening to music. Not a care in the world, you know?
He's just chilling to some jazz.
So finally, the cops arrive, and they find Art the Clown eating this girl's face. She's not dead, mind you. She's just, you know, passed out. And he's eating her face. And then he ends up shooting himself in the face. So the police bring the bodies to the coroner. When he opens the body bag with the clown in it, he's awake. It's in the most awkward position, too. Like, imagine strangling someone while you're laying down. If you were the coroner in this situation, you could easily just like drop your body, and the weight of your body would be impossible for the person strangling you to continue strangling you. And when the clown sits up, you can see the hole in his head. I guess he's immortal. And oh my God, his face. His face is so creepy throughout the entire movie. Let's just do a quick flash of all of the creepy faces he made throughout this movie. So then there's a flash forward and we find out that the girl from the beginning of the movie that killed the talk show host is the same girl that had her face eaten by the clown. So yeah, guys, that was Terrifier. I gotta say, definitely one of the creepiest clown movies I've ever seen, and funniest. There's a bunch of very funny scenes in this movie. I think it's a very special combination when you find a horror movie that's gory, but also really funny. But overall, I thought it was an enjoyable experience. I don't think my wife liked it very much. If you like the hat that I'm wearing throughout this video, you can get it at alienclothing.com. It's my personal clothing brand. Anything you buy over there supports the channel, supports me, and supports all the people that work for the company. And thank you so much to everybody that supports me over on Patreon. I really appreciate it. By the way, before I go, do you know why clowns honk their noses? It's because they're heartless. That's how they pump their blood.